Okay. Another quickie stream that I'm going to do here. Record part 2 later today about the Avengers, which is going to cover kind of the basic story, I think, of Vitka Kempner a little bit, and also talks about Abba Kovner. But yeah, I'll see how much I can cover. This one's going to be a little bit longer. I want to make at least it shorter. That way I can digest a little bit easier. This next one, though, is probably I'm going to try to shoot for like 45 minutes. I'm going to see how far it goes. But anyway, past that, though. This does have something to do with it, though. But I thought about this. The love-hate sort of, dare I sound too much like a psychologist because I'm already thinking the fact that I mentioned it, but the bipolar relationship between socialism and religion. And I think it's important to talk about this because, as we know, as I said with that Lenin quote, now I tried to put that Lenin quote into proper context. Matter of fact, I know I read it on stream and I showed my face back in the day. For the real old school subscribers, y'all remember. But you know what? I'm just going to show the on religion. Okay, let me see here. I'm trying to see. Okay, here we go. So here's a couple of links here. This is Lenin, at least on religion. I'm gonna put those in the pinned comment. Let's see. I've read this one. This Attitude of the Workers' Party. This is the one that I was referring to. But basically, he says the same thing. At the same time, Engels frequently condemned the efforts of people who desired to be more left or more revolutionary than social democrats, declaring war on religion. Okay. This is something I didn't really cover. Same thing with talking about Bismarck against the German Catholic Party. So once again, yeah, I have read this one. Let's see this one on socialism and religion. I literally just looked this up. But yeah, I didn't even think. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but yeah, present society, exploitation, economic oppression of workers inevitably calls forth and engenders every kind of political oppression, and so religion is a sort of spiritual booze in which the slaves of capital, now I've seen this quote, I think, in which the slaves of capital drown their human image, their demand for a life more or less worthy of a man. But a slave who has become conscious of his slavery and has risen to struggle for his emancipation has already half ceased to be a slave, the modern class-conscious worker. So here we go. This is so this is more, okay, so this first one landed on the attitude of, okay, this came out in 1909. The first one I'm looking at here, the attitude of the Workers' Party to religion. Like I say, I will put that in a pinned comment once this is done. And then the one I'm looking at now, Lenin on socialism and religion, that came out in 1905. So a 4-year difference there. Let's see here. So yeah, religion is a type of booze. Religion must be declared a private affair. Once again, define private. I mean, I hate to say, well, what's the definition of is? Or, I'm sounding like Bill Clinton now, but it's like, yeah. But yeah, religion must be declared a private affair. Define private, But yeah, in these words, socialists usually express their attitude towards religion. But the meaning of these words should be accurately defined to prevent any misunderstanding. We demand that religion be held a private affair so far as the state is concerned. But by no means can we consider religion a private affair so far as our party is concerned. Religion must be of no concern to the state, and religious societies must have no connection with governmental authority. So basically, he's actually making it, separation of church and state, basically. Yes, hello. What can we do for you?
You said to knock.
Yes. Okay, sorry about that. Here we go. All right, so yeah, Bakunin compared religious folks with drunkards in God and the state. Yeah. So let me see here. So just want to make sure here. Religion must be of no concern to the state, and religious societies must have no connection with governmental authority. This is the reason why I think, ironically, what Olet, yeah, this is kind of what you were talking about before with Lenin and how he felt about religion and felt about Islam and kind of, national communism. So, yeah, and then kind of what Ceausescu did in Romania with the Orthodox Christian Church. Okay. But by no means can we be, everyone must be absolutely free to profess any religion he pleases, or no religion whatever. Which every socialist is, as documents, should be unquestionably eliminated. No subsidies should be granted to the established church, nor state allowances made to ecclesiastical and religious societies. Well, that's not, it's all nice to say, but, it's another thing when you actually live in real life. But, yeah. Only the complete fulfillment of these demands can put an end to the shameful and accursed past when the church lived in feudal dependence on the state, and Russian citizens lived in feudal dependence on the established church. When medieval inquisitorial, basically, okay. That's the whole poster that we've seen of the, the pyramid structure. Russian revolution must put this demand into effect. Once again, the reality is a whole different type of thing. Servants of God, okay. Either you are sincere, in which case you must stand for a complete separation of church and state, and of school and church, for religion to be declared wholly and absolutely a private affair, or you do not accept these consistent demands for freedom, in which case you evidently are still held captive by the traditions of the Inquisition, in which case you evidently still cling to your cozy government jobs and government-derived incomes, in which case you evidently do not believe in the spiritual power of your weapon, and continue to take bribes from the state. And in that case, the class-conscious workers of all Russia declare merciless war on you. Yeah. Knowing that the Islamic groups in the Caucasus who were NatComs, used religion as a way to liberate themselves from the chains of the Russian Empire. Yeah, exactly. The thing is, once again, this is... It's like, well, Lenin talked about, national struggle and, all that type of thing. But it's like, Lenin wrote a lot of different things, but he did other things, That's the difference that goes on here. But, yeah, we're trying to read through this here, and then I'm going to kind of talk about the what happened IRL, at least in my opinion, my very biased view. Our program is based entirely on scientific and, moreover, the materialist world outlook. An explanation of our program, therefore, necessarily includes an explanation of the true historical and economic roots of the religious fog. Our propaganda necessarily includes the propaganda of atheism, the publication of the appropriate scientific literature, which the autocratic feudal government has hitherto strictly forbidden and persecuted, must now form one of the yields of our party work. We shall now probably have to follow the advice Engels once gave to the German socialists, to translate and widely disseminate the literature of the 18th century French Enlightenment and atheists. But under no circumstances ought we to fall in the error of posing the religious question in an abstract, idealistic fashion as an intellectual question. That's kind of like what a lot of atheists on YouTube still do. You know, that I can't think of the one bald guy who kind of looks like Stefan Molyneux in real life. I can't think of his name. But anyway, it would be stupid to think that in a society based on the endless oppression and coarsening of workers' masses, religious prejudices could be dispelled by purely propaganda methods. It would be bourgeois narrow-mindedness to forget that the yoke of religion that weighs upon mankind is merely a product and reflection of the economic yoke within society. No number of pamphlets and no amount of preaching can enlighten the proletariat if it is not enlightened by its own struggle against the dark forces of capitalism. Unity in this really revolutionary struggle of oppressed class for the creation of a paradise on earth, oh boy, is more important to us than unity of proletarian opinion on paradise in heaven. That is the reason why we do not, basically, okay. Everywhere the reaction, I'm skipping through a lot of this here, but we do not and should not prohibit proletarians who still retain vestiges of their old prejudices from associating themselves with our party. We shall always preach the scientific world outlook, and it is essential for us to combat. Now, once again, he keeps talking about scientific outlook, scientific world outlook. And yet there were definitely sciences that were outlawed. I think that does need to be talked about a little bit is, this idea that, hold on, let me pause that there. Okay. At least that's my view anyway. Actions speak louder than words in the end. Exactly. That's the same thing. I noticed I already got a comment about was Malcolm X's socialist video where it's like, well, he gave speeches, talking about socialism and that he was an anti-capitalist, but he said in other speeches that he wasn't a socialist. Well, it's like, okay, he said it himself. Once again, actions speak louder than words. Malcolm X was more of a legitimate Muslim at this point. He was a Sunni Muslim. He wasn't, that's why he didn't align. It's like, unless you want to talk about the cringy meme ideologies of like Islam, it's like, no, very few people actually believe that. And it's a meme. It is. It's just something to have online to be autistic. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm part of Islam Bowl. Inshallah, we still respect religion, but, it put it in its proper place. Or, Christ Bowl. It's like, no, man. Come on, man. It's like, it's meme LARPing. But some people still. Okay, so let's try to read through this here a bit more. But that does not mean we shall always preach the scientific world outlook, and it is essential for us to combat the inconsistency of various Christians. But that does not mean in the least that the religious question ought to be advanced to first place where it does not belong at all. Nor does it mean that we should allow the forces of the really revolutionary economic and political struggle to be split up on account of third-rate opinions on senseless ideas, rapidly losing all political importance, rapidly being swept out as rubbish by the very course of economic development. Everywhere the reactionary bourgeoisie has concerned itself, and is now beginning to concern itself in Russia, with the fomenting of religious strife in order thereby to divert the attention of the masses from the really important and fundamental economic and political problems now being solved in practice by all Russian proletariat united in revolutionary struggle. This reactionary policy of splitting up the proletarian forces, which today manifests itself mainly in Black Hundred pogroms, may tomorrow conceive some more subtle forms. We, at any rate, shall oppose it by calmly, consistently, and patiently preaching proletarian solidarity and the scientific. Calmly, consistently, and patiently. That's not how it worked in real life. We know that. The destruction of for example, the Russian Orthodox Church in Moscow, which was recently rebuilt under Putin. So no, don't give me that fei hua that you're going to calmly, consistently, and patiently. And also that I believe that the destruction of that church was still under Lenin's watch. So yeah, shao fei hua, as they would say. That's nonsense. It's rubbish. And preaching proletarian solidarity and the scientific world outlook, a preaching alien to any stirring up of secondary differences. The revolutionary proletariat will succeed in making religion a really private affair, so far as the state is concerned, and in this political system cleansed of medieval mildew, the proletariat will wage a broad and open struggle for the elimination of economic slavery, the true source of religious humbugging of mankind. So, once again, with this type of thing, what has to be said, of course, is that what a lot of the anarchists will try to say, and a lot of those types of folks will say, the lib left, I guess you could say, is that they're like, oh, well look at what is I can't think of it now. Like the Christian socialists, or Christian anarchists, and look at the I cannot think of the name, but anyway, the Catholics in Brazil who I'm trying to think of the liberation theology. That's it, yeah, liberation theology. Let's talk about that. Liberation theology, yeah. To me, those are just parts of the whole, you know. But to me, this is playing on the whole idea of separation of church and state, which, of course, is nonsense in the United States. We try to do the same thing, and of course, we have the president sworn in by preaching on the Bible. So no, once again, this is it's nonsense. Of course, we know that that's the way, and of course, I think that once again. And of course, what people say, well, show the Lenin speech. Also attack Orthodox churches who are helping with nativization policies in certain Soviet republics. Yeah. Yep. Once again, I mean, this is, you don't have to go full on Wignat and just be like, oh, well, they killed 100 million people. No. I'm not going to go down that road. But to say that nothing happened, that everything was just hunky-dory, and that everyone else were the bad ones, and they were the ones killing Bolsheviks, and the Bolsheviks were being the good guys. Come on, let's be realistic, can we? But yeah, like I say, at best, the relationship between socialism and religion is bipolar. Like I say, and of course, I'm sure that people like Luna Oy and E. American Johnson would, in Vietnam would probably be like, oh, well, the Catholic Church is still here, but they don't, get involved with all those types of, they aren't reactionary or this and that. Oh, or same thing with Cuba. I imagine that Cuba has, a fairly strong Catholic leaning as well. But, that's all I kind of wanted to say on it. I think that it's just brought up differently. So I can agree to a point with what Lenin was saying. And I've heard bits of this before, talking about, of course, that, the separation between church and state, that basically the state should stop giving money to churches. The thing is that, churches will find another way to make money. And that's kind of where the one of the threads starts, is this idea, of course, that, oh, well, if we get rid of this, then, it'll be all great. I think I've said my piece, though, really. I really think I've said my piece, though, unless there's something else you want me to mention or something else you want to. I know what sucks with YouTube is that they still don't want to send links. I just started watching a few minutes ago, but did you talk about liberation theology? I kind of briefly mentioned it. I know that was, I think it took place in Brazil with liberation theology and that specific part of the Catholic Church. I've never read anything about liberation theology, but as far as I know, it was kind of temporary, wasn't it? It was in like the 60s and 70s, and it seemed kind of like a temporary thing. I don't know. But it's out there, though, and that's what, people use that as a straw man and be like, oh, well, this is how we feel about religion and reality, So I don't know. You can be mad at capitalism, and yeah, I'll say, okay. But, the thing is that the Catholic Church has its own property. And as far as I know, the Catholic Church may get help from the United States government, for the federal government, but I think in general, they have plenty of their own property. They have plenty of their own stuff going around. Same thing with the Nation of Islam. They have farms, they have capital, they have investments, they have, real life capital with an O in this case, or a different, lowercase capital, lowercase c capital, which isn't connected directly with the state. I think that should be mentioned. But yeah, that's basically what I wanted to say about. Oh, you are in here. Oh. Okay. But yeah. So I did talk about that a little bit. I don't know a whole lot about liberation theology. I haven't had any direct experience with it, but you also have Christian anarchists, this and that. I kind of mentioned that briefly, but that's about it. I'm just saying is that the fight between socialism and religion is going to continue, and it's going to be messy. Once again, is that this goes into the deeper story of the different parts of Islam. It's funny to me how you'll have people like Jason Unruh try to praise Hezbollah, or you'll hear what's his face? What is his name? Caleb Maupin praise. To be honest, I don't think liberation theology follows biblical teaching. Making view about landing. Oh, okay. I'll try to watch that Union Army ball. That does sound good. Because I'm curious because there's this one guy, I can't think of his name offhand. He's one of these Hispanic dudes. He looks like he's basically like the Hispanic version of Peter Coffin. That's what he looks like. Who talk about religion. And I think, it was kind of, he just kind of got too boring for me. And now I think he's pretty much on Twitch, as a lot of these folks are. They all just kind of, they all have this kind of hive mind. Same thing with the Wignats. Like, oh, well, I'm just going to upload to BitChute. So, so instead now they do live streams on, Twitch. And then if they're, if they feel like it, they'll, cut some of that around the live stream that they did and put it on YouTube. Kind of goes back and forth. But anyway, yeah. What else was I going to say about it? But yeah, basically, we're going to see this back and forth battle. Oh, Damon Garcia. Yep, that's who it is. Damon Garcia. You are correct, sir. Yeah. Yep. I know who you're talking about now. Okay. Yep. Yeah, I just kind of bored with him. It's like, okay, yeah, I understand what you're trying to do, Biggin, but it's like, there's a lot of back and forth. But here's where I was going to finish off. Basically, with you'll have Jason Unruh try to praise the Jewish Bund, and you'll have people like Caleb Maupin praising the Houthis. Well, I guess he's trying. I don't know if this is true, but Houthis, I guess, are Shia. They're Shia Muslim, and of course, the battle between Shia and Sunni Islam is very complicated. And I always say it's like, it's like I'm already drowning. The fact that I mentioned this, I'm already drowning. I realize that. It's like, because I know that, the anti-Semitism never bothers me because especially with the Middle East, to a point, is justified. I'm just going to tell you that right now. It's justified. But the split between Sunni and Shia, and what the beliefs are, and I've heard, at least I've read, tweets from folks, and they'll be like, oh well, Shia Islam, is more of a Hindu religion, it's more pagan, and it was created by the Jews and all that. So it's like, whatever, it's kind of silly. But anyway, yeah, most MLs do love supporting Hezbollah and Hamas, but when it's Georgia defending their country from Russian interference, they're automatically fascist. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's very true. It's the same type of thing with the anti-Zionist crowd, who are just like, oh well, BDS is good. But when Hezbollah and Hamas are brought up, they're like, we don't like that. Yeah, it just shows how broken a lot of politics are, and how these old models just won't work. And so far is that everyone's just still kind of living in the 20th century, really, with their politics, and they're just kind of stuck in their own little thing. Yeah. Leftists love anti-imperialism unless it's a socialist country being imperialist. Yeah. That is kind of true. Yeah. Leftists love imperialism, but unless it's a socialist country. Yeah. It's always a ridiculous type of thing when these folks, bring up their. It's all just ridiculous. I think I've covered my point. Now I'm just rambling. Hopefully I made some somewhat cognizant points. Sorry to do that on stream, but it's just that, like I said, hopefully later today I will be uploading part 2 of the Avengers. Like I say, it's going to be a bit longer, probably be about 40 minutes or so. Like I say, for me, I try to cut it off about 45 minutes usually. Sometimes I have like an hour long, but I'm not going to do like that culture thug guy. We'll put it that way. I'll just try to say that in whispers, but I'll try not to be like the culture thug guy and like upload a 3-hour video about Huey Long. It's like, that's interesting, but it's like, I got things to do. So I was just, like I say, I try to cut it off about an hour. But yeah, we'll get through more of that. This is kind of more the introduction of Rizka Korchak meeting Vitka Kempner and meeting Abakovner, and kind of how they start out and then kind of going through their exploits. So I think that'll be pretty interesting. Like I say, I'm going to have to find a hard cutting point, because these are not chapters specifically. They just break it into sections. So basically it's called, just for reference, if you ever do read it, they break it into the ghetto, the forest, the cities, and the desert. So that's the way they break it up. So it's like the ghetto starts on page 11, and then it goes to page 104. And then the forest is 105 to 157. And then the cities is 157 to 219. And then the desert, and then to the afterward is 219 to 239. And then the bibliography and acknowledgments and index. So that's a lot to, and it's like, I can't really name it in chapters and whatnot, but you know what, nonetheless, I'm gonna start I'm gonna try to finish what I started and go from there. Like I said, and then I'll do Revolt of the Elites. I'll read that book from I can't think of his name now. Hold on. Christopher Lash. I had to look at it. Anyway, just let y'all know. Anyway, see you later, folks, and have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye.